Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm in the office. I got the laptop open. It's Monday night. It's been a long day. I'm tired. But let's read a little bit further in this novel. This is California Gangsters, the working title of the first novel that I wrote. I've written 3 in this series. This is a series about the Los Angeles Syndicate, about the mafia. This takes place, it starts off in the late 60s, early 70s, and works its way through up until about, I guess, the mid 80s by the time the 3rd book comes around. In our last video, we just read 1 or 2 pages, page 3 and a little bit of page 4, I think most of page 4. We're going to start on page 5. And our main character, Simon Castro, we'll be following him throughout the entire book. He's still in high school at Beverly Hills High School, and he is very passionate about football. But he got caught with his friends partying late one night on the football field, doing drugs. He got busted by the coach, and it wasn't pretty. The coach was pissed. Well, Simon happened to run into his Uncle Frank later that evening and appealed to him for help, because he's very worried that his prospects to go to a good college are going to be ruined, and then that ruins his entire path to the NFL. So let's just pick up where we left off. That's the setup. The next day, Uncle Frank did just as he promised, and he had a talk with the coach. He showed up to the practice and grabbed the coach as he walked out of the locker rooms, just before he hit the field. I was already on the field with the rest of the team, stretching with the guys. I could see the coach and Frank talking. The coach sure did have a big smile on his face, and that was out of character for him. After only a minute or 2, the men shook hands, and Uncle Frank waddled off, holding his cigar in the corner of his mouth and twirling his giant gold and diamond pinky ring on his finger. After practice, curiosity was too much. I had to go talk to the coach and see what he and my uncle were up to. He caught me lurking outside of his office door and said, "Hey, big fella, come on in. Please sit down." I started off with a humble apology and replied, "Look, Coach, I'm really sorry about what happened last night with my friends. The coach smiled nervously and quickly interrupted me. "Oh, not to worry, son. Don't worry about a thing. The school is closed at night, and you kids shouldn't be on campus after dark, but I was just concerned about your safety. It's water under the bridge." I gave a sinister smile and replied, "So, I saw you talking to my Uncle Frank at practice earlier. He sure does want to see me go to UCLA, but I think my father wants me to go to USC. What do you think is better?" The coach was really jittery and stood up to show me out of his office. He said, "Either one's fine. You got nothing to worry about, son. You give your best to your Uncle Frank for me, and your father, and your grandfather too." Then he pushed me out into the hallway and literally shut the door in my face. I heard him lean against the door and give a sigh of relief. I loved my Uncle Frank. He always had my back, and he always came through for me. The only bummer about this scenario was that I had to actually buckle down in school and try to be a good boy. There's no more partying or trespassing or staying out late with my friends. When I graduated high school, I really did want to go to UCLA, and I asked my father if he would pay for it, but he refused. My father had a grudge against the UC system because of a construction contract that he failed to muscle his way in on, so he refused to let any of his kids go there, even though UCLA was fairly close to our house. Instead, I happily drove across Los Angeles to the USC campus. My father bribed my way in. As a freshman, I played defensive line and was large enough to knock around with the older guys on the Trojans. Many famous NFL greats had gone to USC, and I felt like I was in the right place. My life had been pretty easy at that time. Everything was working out for me. And in result, I admit, I was fairly naive and spoiled, living in my own little bubble of being big man on campus at a top school. Unfortunately, throughout my entire football career, my father never showed up to a single game. He always kept a low profile in public for the most part. He was like the invisible man. He didn't even like to meet my friends when they came over to the house. My mom didn't come to my games either because she hated my Uncle Frank. She couldn't stand being around him. And my Uncle Frank came to every game. He was my biggest fan. In fact, he never missed a single game from the time I first started at Beverly Hills High School on the football team all the way through college. And I did think that Frank was going to be a little bummed that I went to USC instead of UCLA. But he was oddly excited. I think he was just being supportive because he wanted me to go to a state school. However, I quickly discovered that Frank was partly showing up to my games simply to scam the other players into cheating. I would constantly see my Uncle Frank on the sideline smoking his cigar and twirling his pinky ring as he sweet-talked the players into accepting white envelopes full of cash. After each game, Frank would come down to the locker room and congratulate the guys. If we lost, he would take the entire team out to get drunk, usually at his bar over in Beverly Hills. He tried to be everyone's uncle, not just mine. And as soon as any player on the team got a little bit tipsy, Frank swooped in like a vulture and talked them into cooperating with his cheating scam. He would pay guys to keep the points down for a certain amount of time during games. He would give a player $5,000 in cash for cheating, which most guys would spend as fast as they would touch the envelope. Once Frank handed over that first envelope of money to a willing sucker, he and the LA crime family basically owned the poor guy. That sort of cash was almost impossible for any dude to refuse. It's like putting a bowl of candy in front of a hungry child. Frank would even try to get me to cooperate and would tell me, "Let this team get a touchdown or two in the first half, will you? Can't you just go a little easy on the quarterback for the first half?" I never listened to any of his crap. I was focused on one goal and one goal only, and that was my football resume. I wanted to get into the NFL. But I never got mad at Frank for his rackets. I simply loved that he showed up to my games. Nobody else was. And I didn't want to risk losing his attendance. All right, well, let's stop here. I want to go further, but we'll do that next Monday. Thanks for watching.